Dear student, today we will talk about a story, The Gift of Magi. First, we will talk about the author. William Sidney Porter was born at Greensboro, North Carolina. He then moved to Austin, Texas, where he worked in a bank. There, the charges of embezzlement were leveled against him and he was imprisoned. While in prison, he began writing short stories, and it is there that he assumed the pen name O. Henry for his writings. After his release from prison in 1901, he moved to New York, which is the setting for many of his stories. O. Henry is famous for his use of surprise and twist endings. He is regarded as the grandmaster of modern short stories. He wrote more than 300 stories, which are collected in the volumes Cabbage and King, The 4 Million, and The Voice of the City. The Gift of Magi is a short story by O. Henry, first published in 1905. The story tells of a young husband and wife and how they deal with the challenge of buying secret Christmas gift for each other with very little money. As a sentimental story with a moral lesson about gift giving, it has been popular for adaptation, especially for presentation in the Christmas time. The plot and its twist ending are well known, and the ending is generally considered an example of comic story. It was allegedly written at Pettis Twain on having place in New York City. This story was initially published in the New York Sunday World under the title The Gift of Magi on December 1905. Now we will talk about the story. It is a Christmas time and Della wants to buy a gift for her husband Jim. However, she has only $1.87 with her. Jim's income has been reduced from $30 to $20 a week, and that has turned Della's frugality into parsimony. Back at home, Della sees herself in the mirror and on a sudden inspiration rushes out again to sell her hair to a wig shop. She gets $20, just enough to buy a platinum fob chain she had been a shop window. Jim returns home, sees Della, and finds herself in an indescribable position. He embraces Della and assures her that he still loves her and gives her the gift he has bought for her. Tearing it eagerly, Della finds a set of combs that she has so often admired in a Broadway show. Hiding her tears, Della hands over her gift, the platinum fob chain, to Jim. Jim looks at her with finite love and patience and suggests that they should put away their presents for a while, as he has sold his gold watch to buy combs for her. The story ends with the narrator comparing the pair's mutually sacrificial gifts of love with those of biblical Magi. This was the summary of the story Gift of Magi. Now we will look at the critical appreciation of the story. First, we will talk about introduction. The Gift of Magi is a moral story. It is one of the most popular and moving short stories of O. Henry. It narrates a strange event in the life of a poor young couple. The story is didactic in its nature and teaches us the moral of conjugal love. Jim and Della are devoted couple who part with their best treasures to purchase Christmas gift for each other. Now the subject matter or summary, which we have discussed earlier. Now, the significance of the title. The title of the story, The Gift of Magi, has a reference to the story of three wise men of the East who bring nice presents for the baby Christ who cannot use those gifts. These gifts were very costly and valuable. The Christmas gifts brought by Jim and Della were also very valuable, but the gifts were useless for each other as they had already lost their possessions for which the one purchased a gift for the other. But the gifts signified their deep and true love. So, the title of the story is quite appropriate. The story ends with a comparison of Jim and Della gifts to Jim that the Magi or three wise men gave to baby Jesus in the manger of biblical story of the Christmas. The narrator concludes that Jim and Della are far wiser than Magi because their gifts are gifts of love, and those who give out of love and self sacrifice are truly wise because they know the value of their self giving love. Now, theme and moral. The Gift of Magi is a classical example of irony in literature. Irony is a literary technique in which an expectation of what is supposed to occur differs greatly from the actual outcome. In this case, Jim and Della sacrifice their most treasured possessions so that the other can fully enjoy his or her gift. Jim sells his watch to buy Della's combs, expecting her to be able to use them. Della sells her chain to buy a chain for his watch. Neither expects the other is have made that sacrifice. The irony here works both on a practical and on a deeper, more sentimental love. Both Della and Jim buy each other a gift that ultimately seems financially foolish. Being poor, they can't afford to waste money on things they can't use. However, what they get is something they don't expect, a more intangible gift that reminds them how much they love each other. Now, the message through this story. The writer wants to say that gifts have their interesting value, whatever their nominal value may be. They are tokens of mutual affections and keep the intensity of love alive. These days, gifts or presents are given generally to achieve some selfish end. Such gifts are only artificial and showing and are little imbued in real love. In old times, it was otherwise. When Jim and Della present their gifts to each other, they realize their mistakes. But their affection for each other is not diminished. It shows that they fully know the real purpose of giving presents. The narrator wraps out the story by describing the Magi who invented the art of giving Christmas presents. He compares Della and Jim to these were men and concludes that all those who give gifts, those who are willful. The pathetic note in the story. We can notice very clearly the pathetic note in the story. The poor condition of the couple in this poverty, strong desire of giving the presents to each other expresses the pathos in the story. A pathetic scene comes before us when we find that each of them sacrificed their dearest possessions to purchase gifts for each other. These gifts to become useless as they did not then possess the things for which those costly gifts were brought. So, we can conclude or we can say the story Gift of Magi is a moral story. It has a didactic note which teaches us about a true conjugal love. The story is based on the custom of giving presents on the Christmas day. The story inspires men and women to live as husband and wife as Jim and Della had lived. The elements of sacrifice and pathos are very strong in the story. So, this is the critical appreciation of the story, The Gift of Magi.